I remember the day it all began. I was sitting in my quiet house, lost in memories of my son. A few months had passed since he died, and I felt so alone. Every room echoed with his absence. I tried to find comfort in old family photos and came across a dusty box in the attic. I hoped it would lift my spirits. As I flipped through the pictures, I laughed at my son's silly faces and joyful moments with his friends. But then, I stopped. There were odd images mixed in. My daughter-in-law was making strange poses. I didn't recognize those faces. They seemed twisted somehow. I felt uneasy and put the box away, but the knot in my stomach wouldn't loosen. That night, I sat in the living room, listening to the silence. Around 10 p.m., I heard a noise outside. It sounded like footsteps. I peeked through the window but didn't see anything. Only darkness stared back at me. I shook my head, thinking I was imagining things. But the feeling of being watched wouldn't go away. Days turned into weeks. I found small notes slipped under my door. They warned me to stay away from my family, especially from my daughter-in-law. "Stay away from her," one read. I shivered reading it. Who would do that? The uncertainty gnawed at me. I felt trapped, like I was circling a dark maze. I wandered through town, hoping for a kind word from neighbors. Instead, they looked through me or hurried away. Even Mrs. Thompson, who usually baked for me, crossed the street when she saw me. I felt invisible. Whispers followed me like shadows. Had my daughter-in-law turned them against me? Things got worse at home. One evening I heard a loud crash from the kitchen. My heart raced as I rushed to check. I found my pots and pans scattered across the floor. I didn't remember knocking them down. Was someone in my house? I felt very cold, my palms sweaty. I wished I could breathe easier. I tried to think rationally, but the doubt crept in. Was I going crazy? Or was I truly in danger from the people I once trusted? I stayed up at night, listening to every creak in the floor. Every sound made my heart pound. Then one day, while tidying up, I spotted a new letter on the table. It said, "You should have stayed away." A tight pain gripped my chest. I knew then that I was deeply ensnared in something far beyond my control. Then, just when I thought I might start unraveling the mystery, I heard a chilling voice behind me. "Why are you digging?" I whipped around, my breath freezing in my throat. No one was there. I felt dizzy. I didn't know what was real anymore. Each thought echoed back to me, leaving me more lost than before. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall. My heart thumped wildly in my chest. The voice echoed in my mind. I had to figure out what was happening. Why was I being targeted? The next morning I forced myself to face the day. I needed answers. I decided to visit a neighbor, Mr. Adams. He had lived on my street for years, and I hoped he might have seen or heard something strange. I knocked on his door, my palms clammy. "Hello?" Mr. Adams opened the door, his expression shifting from confusion to apprehension. "Hi, Mr. Adams. It's me, Helen. Can I talk to you for a moment?" He hesitated, glancing over his shoulder. Sure, but..." I could see the tension in his shoulders. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "Have you noticed anything strange lately? About my daughter-in-law or the house?" His eyes flickered away, like he was weighing his words. "I think you should just take care of yourself, Helen." "Why do you say that?" I pressed. He swallowed hard. "Just be careful. This isn't the place it used to be." Before I could respond, he closed the door. I stood on the porch, frustration building. What did he mean? Back home, I paced the living room, tension coiling in my gut. I caught sight of the box of photos again, hidden in the corner like a secret. Maybe I'd missed something important. I opened it, sifting through the pictures. The odd ones seemed to taunt me, each one with a distorted face and grotesque expressions. My daughter-in-law's images were mixed in with these uncanny figures, and I felt my pulse quicken. That's when I noticed something on the back of one photo. It had a date, 12 years ago, along with a name. Margaret. My heart plummeted. Who was Margaret? And why was her name linked to the memories I had of my family? I needed to find out more. I searched online, trying to connect the dots, but many pages led to dead ends. I stumbled upon a local forum discussing strange events in the neighborhood. I felt a chill creep across my skin as I read about a woman named Margaret. She had vanished after reporting strange happenings in her home. Family and friends had branded her a liar and turned away from her. Was this what was happening to me? A sudden noise broke my concentration. A knock at the door. My breath hitched. I peered through the peephole. It was her, the daughter-in-law, standing there looking right at me. For a moment I froze. I didn't know if I was ready to face her. Would she confront me about my search? Would she deny everything? But then she raised her hand and knocked again, more urgently this time. I took a deep breath, my instincts screaming at me to run. Turning on my heel, I backed away from the door. I needed to protect myself. The room felt stuffy. I gripped the edge of the table and prepared to call for help. But just as panic seized me, the power flickered and everything went dark. A heavy silence enveloped the house. Then I heard a whisper behind me, unmistakable and cold. "I thought you wanted answers." I jolted at the sound, the chill spreading through me like ice water. The whisper felt close, yet I couldn't see anyone. My heart raced, pounding loud in the silence. I wanted to scream, to run, but my feet felt glued to the floor. "Who's there?" I finally managed to call out, my voice shaking. Nothing but darkness answered me. I strained to listen, hoping to hear movement, but all I felt was an oppressive weight pressing me down. I fumbled for my phone, feeling around the table until I found it. I turned on the flashlight, the beam cutting through the blackness. The light flickered as I scanned the room, desperation spiking with every passing second. There was nothing, just my living room, unchanged except for the shadows that danced along with my frantic breath. Everything felt unreal. Then I saw it, a figure standing in the corner just outside the circle of light. Panic surged within me, and I stumbled back, my back hitting the wall. The beam of my flashlight flickered again, revealing her, my daughter-in-law. But she looked different. Her face, usually so composed, appeared twisted, eyes glimmering as if reflecting something more profound than mere light. "Helen," she said, her voice an eerie whisper. "It's time to talk." "What do you want?" I asked, my throat dry. "Why are you doing this?" She took a step closer, the light catching her features more fully. "You think you have the right to question everything?" My mind spun. Why was she acting like this? I remembered Mr. Adams's warning and felt a fresh wave of fear wash over me. "I'm just trying to understand. I read about Margaret. What happened to her?" Her expression soured, lips twisting. "Margaret was foolish to speak up. No one believed her, just like no one believes you." The words hit me like a slap. "You knew her?" "Of course. It's the silence that protects us. You're digging into things best left buried." The intensity of her gaze made my skin crawl. "You should stop this. It's dangerous." "Dangerous?" she scoffed. "You have no idea what danger really is, but maybe you'll learn." Before I could respond, the power snapped back on, and the house lit up like a stage. The sudden brightness almost blinded me. I squinted, expecting her to dissolve into the shadows, but she stood there, grinning, and the room felt colder somehow. "I have my own way of protecting my family," she said, each word dripping with malice. "You should be careful who you threaten." And just like that, she turned and walked out, leaving me trembling in the wake of her threat. My thoughts raced. What had just happened? I rushed to the window, watching as she disappeared down the street. I needed to act, to find answers that would keep me safe. I recalled the names, the photos, the whispers. Everything was connected. I grabbed my coat, my hands shaking but my resolve hardening. I had to know what really happened to Margaret. The truth could be my only protection now. I stepped outside into the cool night, the air biting against my skin, determined to uncover the darkness shadowing my family's past. I just hoped I wouldn't end up like Margaret. The next day I stared at my computer screen, trying to focus but failing miserably. I needed to find something, anything, that would help me make sense of my situation. My daughter-in-law's words haunted me. No one believed her, just like no one believes you. I opened a search engine and typed in the name Margaret. The screen filled with articles, memorials, and faded photographs. Each click sent a chill through my spine. I needed to know more about her. I found a blog dedicated to unsolved cases, stories of disappearances and abuses. Margaret's name was listed under the section of unresolved cases. My heart quickened as I read about her life and her sudden disappearance. There were whispers of a cover-up, claims of people who had tried to speak out, but nobody listened. Then I saw it. A date circled in bold, the anniversary of her disappearance. It was only a week away. My stomach turned. The closer we got to that date, the more urgent my search felt. I clicked on a thread discussing Margaret, filled with comments from people who claimed to know her. "She was always ready to speak the truth," one read. "But in our town, truth can be deadly." I shivered. I needed more than just vague claims. I needed people who knew her, who remembered her. I picked up the phone and decided to call the police station. Maybe they could help. I dialed the number, my fingers trembling over the keys. "Hello, this is Officer Chang." A voice answered. "Hi, I'm Helen. I'm looking for information about Margaret." I played with my hair nervously, trying to steady my voice. "I want to know what happened to her." There was a long pause on the other end. "Are you related to her?" "No, but I think something must have happened in my family." I'm just trying to understand." "Well, I can't give you private details, but let me warn you." The officer's voice grew serious. "Digging into the past can upset those who'd rather forget." "Forget what?" I asked, my heart racing. "Just be careful, Miss Helen," she said before hanging up, leaving me staring at the deadline, my resolve faltering. I had to talk to someone who knew Margaret. I grabbed my keys and headed out to visit the cafe where she used to work. When I got there, the atmosphere was different. The place was dim, with only a few patrons scattered about. I approached the counter where a tired-looking woman stood. "Hi, I'm looking for information about Margaret. I was hoping you could help me." Her eyes darted away, and for a moment, I thought she would brush me off. "It's been a long time since anyone asked about her," she finally said. "But I can't talk here." At her insistence, I agreed to meet her outside later, trying to suppress my excitement. Maybe she would have the answers I desperately needed. As I walked to my car, I felt a presence behind me. I glanced over my shoulder but saw nothing. The unsettling feeling crawled under my skin. I hurried to my vehicle, locking the doors just as a chill swept through the air. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of me, blocking my path. I gasped. It was the same woman from the cafe, but something about her expression had shifted. "Are you sure you want to know the truth about Margaret?" she asked, her voice low. That's when I felt it. The fear creeping back in, stronger than before. I took a step back, and my heart pounded loudly as I realized I wasn't just looking for answers anymore. I was in deeper than I'd ever imagined. I hesitated, taking in her words. The chill in the air grew thicker, wrapping around me like fog. "What do you mean?" I stammered, forcing my voice steady. "You don't understand what you're getting into," she said, glancing around as if she feared being overheard. Margaret wasn't just another name in the papers. She was involved in something dangerous. The weight of her statement settled on me. I had assumed Margaret's disappearance was just a tragic story. Now it sounded like she'd been tangled in something far more sinister. "What do you know about it?" I pressed, my curiosity igniting a spark of determination. "Not here," she replied urgently. "Meet me at the old park. There's too much attention around the cafe." I nodded, though trepidation knotted my stomach. The old park was a place of memories for many, overgrown and slowly fading into the background of town life. Before I could ask anything more, she stepped back into the shadows. My pulse raced as I scrambled to my car, my mind racing. I could either go home or follow the thread that had begun to unravel before me. I decided then. I had to know. Driving to the park, I felt like I was being watched. Every car that passed made my heart jump, but I pressed on. The trees loomed as I entered the park, their branches twisting as if trying to reach for something hidden. I parked and stepped onto the gravel path, scanning the area for the woman. She was already waiting for me near a weathered bench, her anxious demeanor stark against the fading light. "I'm glad you came," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Margaret was trying to expose something that could have put her life in danger. People in this town have a lot to hide. "What kind of things?" I asked, trying to ignore the tightening feeling in my chest. "Corruption. Lies. It's complicated. You need to be ready to hear things that might change everything for you." "What do you mean?" I pressed, but she held up her hand. "Listen. Someone's been watching you. You've already begun to poke at things that were meant to stay buried. You might not be safe." A cold shiver raced down my spine. I hadn't considered that I might be in danger for seeking the truth. "Why are you telling me this?" "I knew Margaret," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I was one of the last people to see her. I thought it was over, but now you're stirring things up again. You need to dig deeper. Find her family, speak to those who loved her. But be cautious. You may end up just like her." My stomach twisted. I was already neck-deep in this, and I wasn't backing out now. "Can you help me?" "Not with my face out there," she said, shaking her head. "Just remember, the truth can destroy those who seek it." Before I could argue, she turned away, disappearing into the shadows of the park with those final words ringing in my ears. I was left there, alone and unsettled, wondering if I'd done the right thing by stepping into this darkness. It was then I noticed something glimmering on the ground near the bench. I bent down and picked it up, a small silver locket, cold in my palm. I opened it and gasped at the picture inside. It was a photo of Margaret and a man I didn't recognize. That's when I saw the name engraved on the back. It sent chills through me. Mark. I had to find out who he was, and why his name was tied to this story. But first, I needed to understand the danger I was truly in. I walked back to my car, the locket heavy in my pocket. The sun was setting, casting long shadows on the ground. Even as the light faded, my thoughts raced. Who was Mark? Why was he in the picture with Margaret? And what had she really been involved in? I drove home with a knot in my stomach, the locket feeling like a weight pulling me down. Once I got inside, I went straight to my desk. I laid the locket out before me, illuminated by the light of my lamp. As I examined the photo again, an unsettling thought struck me. If Margaret and Mark were close, perhaps he was tied to her disappearance. I needed to find out more. But first, I had to be smart about this. I pulled out my laptop and started looking through local records. Any hints that might connect the two. I searched for Mark. Last name, address, anything. My heart raced as a few possible leads appeared. One entry caught my eye. A Mark Thompson, listed as a local artist. The address was just a few miles from where I lived. It felt too easy, but I had to check it out. I took a deep breath and grabbed my coat. My instincts were screaming at me to be wary, but I couldn't ignore the drive to know more. The darkness of night settled in as I stepped outside again, each sound amplifying my unease. I parked in front of a modest house, its windows dimly lit. It looked unassuming, but my heart pounded like a warning bell. As I approached, I noticed a flicker of movement in one of the windows. I slowed my pace and pressed my ear against the door, hoping for some clue inside. Nothing. Just silence. I considered knocking but hesitated. What if Mark had something to do with Margaret's fate? I could be walking into a trap. I took a step back to reconsider, and then I spotted something on the porch. A small box sat near the edge, wrapped in plain brown paper. My curiosity got the better of me, and I crept closer. As I lifted the box, it felt light. I needed to open it and see what was inside. It wasn't my intention to dig deeper, but I could feel the pull of this mystery. Suddenly, a sound shattered my thoughts. A door swung open and a man stepped out, silhouetted against the light. His eyes were sharp, scanning the area. Panic surged through me. I darted around the corner of the house, my heart racing as I leaned against the cool brick wall. I had to get out of here. Before I turned to leave, I caught sight of the man's face. He looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. Had I seen him in town before? Then everything clicked. He looked like the man in the locket. The realization hit me hard. I had to know who he was, before I ended up in over my head. I turned to head back to my car, but my foot slipped on loose gravel. I stumbled, catching myself just in time, but I was sure the noise would have given me away. I had to move. I had to figure out what was really going on before it was too late. I dashed down the side of the house, careful to stay quiet. My breath felt loud in my ears, and I cursed myself for being so reckless. All I wanted was answers, but instead I seemed to have put myself in danger. I finally made it back to my car, my heart still pounding. I fumbled for my keys, my hands shaking. I glanced back at the house, half expecting to see the man coming after me. But nothing happened. He was still inside, a shadow behind the curtain. I started the engine and pulled away, but my thoughts raced even faster than the car. Who was he? What did he want? And why was he so familiar? I needed to find out more about Mark Thompson and whatever role he played in this mess. Back at home, I pulled my laptop out again. I was running on instinct, but I had to be smart. I typed in Mark Thompson local artist, hoping to uncover some clue. A few minutes in, I found a social media profile. It was public. As I scanned his photos, I saw images of him at various art shows. He seemed to have a good following, but what caught my eye were the comments, especially from people talking about his beautiful inspiration and deep emotions. Then my heart dropped as I found something unsettling. A photo tagged with a name that felt too familiar. Margaret. In the caption, Mark referred to her as a mentor. I squinted at the screen as if willing it to change, but the truth was staring back at me. I switched tabs and pulled up Margaret's old news articles. There she was, smiling and vibrant, the focus of the local community. But each article mentioned her passion for art. Had she shared this with Mark? Were they involved in something together? Something that might explain her disappearance? I scrolled deeper, looking for any interaction between them. But then my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. "Get away from him." My blood ran cold. I stared at the message, trying to catch my breath. Who was this? What did they know? I felt exposed, as if someone was watching me. Every instinct told me to trust this message, that I needed to heed the warning. But I couldn't just walk away. It was like catching a glimpse of light in a dark tunnel. If I closed my eyes now, I might miss the way out. I needed to confront this head-on. As I gathered my courage, I glanced out the window. A car had pulled up near my driveway. My heart stopped as I recognized the driver. It was the man from the house, the one in the locket. Then everything went dark. I woke up to the sound of my phone vibrating against the wooden table. My hands were still trembling and I felt a cold sweat on my skin. With a heavy heart, I blinked away the darkness, realizing that I had passed out. I quickly checked the time. It had been almost an hour since I last remembered anything. Everything seemed eerily quiet, but I sensed it. Something was off. Maybe it was my mind racing or a lingering sense of dread. I glanced out the window, half expecting him to still be there, but the driveway was empty. I felt a mix of relief and anxiety. I wanted to check my phone for messages again, but fear gripped me. What if he knew I was awake? I shook my head, forcing myself to focus. I needed to find answers. I grabbed my laptop and opened the browser once more. Mark Thompson was at the center of this. I found his social media profile again, but this time I took a closer look. A couple of hours of recent posts caught my eye. Each one showed something different, a gallery opening, a piece of artwork he had created. But then I noticed the comments. Among the adoration there were whispers, accusations even. His art changes once she disappears. Coincidence? I think not. I shivered at the implication. Who was this she they were referencing? That was when I saw it. A link to an obscure blog that appeared to focus on local artists and their intrigues. I pulled it up, eager to find anything that could connect Mark and Margaret. Scrolling through the endless list of posts, I finally found one that caught my attention. The Unsolved Mystery of Margaret Lane. My heart raced as I read the article, detailing Margaret's rise as an artist in the community and her unsettling disappearance several months prior. It mentioned her last known whereabouts, the gallery where Mark's paintings were displayed. Just then, a loud bang interrupted my concentration. It came from the back of the house. I froze, straining to hear anything more. Silence. My heart raced as I crept toward the door leading to the back patio. Maybe it's just an animal, I whispered to myself, trying to calm my pounding heart. I stepped cautiously, my breath steadying as I approached the door. But the nagging feeling wouldn't let go. Something told me it was more than just a mere animal. As I reached for the doorknob, my phone rang sharply, the noise slicing through the tension. The unknown number again. I hesitated, but ultimately answered, holding my breath. "Don't go out there," the voice said, low and urgent. Something in their tone sent chills down my spine. "Who are you?" I demanded. "Someone who knows more than you think. Trust me, stay inside." Before I could respond, they hung up. I stood frozen, the choice clear. I couldn't ignore the warning any longer, but the curiosity gnawed at me. What was lurking outside? Then I heard it again, a faint rustle, followed by a soft footfall on the porch. Someone was definitely there. I took a step back and grabbed the nearest object, an old lamp, ready to defend myself. That's when I noticed it, a shadow shifting just beyond the curtain. Suddenly a figure stepped into view and I felt my heart go cold. It was him. I stood there, frozen, lamp gripped tightly in my hands. He was closer now, standing just beyond the glass, wearing that unsettling smile that sent a jolt of fear through me. I wanted to scream, to run, but my body felt like it was glued to the floor. "Let me in, won't you?" he said, his voice smooth but laced with something sinister. "I just want to talk." I didn't want to talk. I wanted him gone. "What do you want?" I managed to say, my voice shaking. He chuckled softly, almost mockingly. "You know what I want. You're digging into things you shouldn't. It's dangerous." "It's dangerous for you, too," I shot back, surprising myself with my defiance. His eyes flickered for a moment, as if caught off guard. "Maybe," he said, still smiling, but the tension in his posture shifted. "But how long do you think you can keep digging? You can't protect yourself against what you don't understand." Anger bubbled within me, pushing back the fear. "You don't scare me," I said, though I could feel the weight of his gaze pressing on me. "Ah, but you know I could, if I wanted to." His eyes darkened, and I finally took a step back, my grip tightening around the lamp. If he tried anything, I needed to be ready. "Why are you here?" I pressed, trying to keep my voice steady. "Because you're asking questions that make me uncomfortable. I'm here to offer you a warning. There's more to Margaret's story than you know." His words hung in the air, a loaded silence stretching between us. I felt a flicker of hope mixed with fear. Could he know something that could lead to answers? "What do you mean?" He paused, a fleeting look of hesitation crossing his face. "She's not the only one who got lost in this town." He glanced over his shoulder as if sensing something behind him. "Just remember, not everything is as it seems." In that moment, a loud crash rang out from the back of the house, like glass shattering. My heart dropped. "See? Things are looking a little less safe already," he said coldly, but there was an edge of urgency in his voice now. I needed to move. "Get away from my door. Now." "Choose wisely," he said, and with one last unsettling smile, he turned and disappeared into the night like a shadow swallowing the light. I rushed to close and lock the door, my heart racing. What was happening? I could feel the adrenaline pulsing through me. That's when I heard it again. Footsteps, muffled voices coming from the back of the house, just beyond the shattered glass. My instincts kicked in. I grabbed my phone to call for help, but the screen blinked. No service. Panic surged within me as I dropped the phone back onto the table. I had to think. Who could be back there? What if they were working with him? But then I remembered the blog, the mystery of Margaret's disappearance. There had to be a connection. If I wanted answers, I would need to face whatever, or whoever, was lurking outside. I took a deep breath, fought back the fear, and crept toward the back door. The lamp held firmly in front of me. I could feel the weight of the unknown pressing upon me. And just like that, with resolve building inside, I opened the door. The chill of the night air hit me, a prickly reminder of the danger I'd stepped into. The shattered glass crunched beneath my feet as I stepped cautiously onto the porch, scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. The backyard was obscured by shadows, the trees swaying slightly in the breeze. But now all I felt was the weight of anticipation. "Margaret!" I shouted, my voice trembling but firm. I'd remembered the stories, the whispers. What if she was out there, trapped in something I couldn't understand? Each moment stretched, silence wrapping around me, thick as fog. I moved across the porch, peering down the side of the house where I'd last heard the noise. My heart raced as memories of fragmented photographs and ominous warnings flooded my mind. What had Margaret uncovered? Why was she silenced? A flicker of movement caught my attention and I froze. I could just make out a figure, leaning against the fence. It was too dark to discern details, but the stance felt familiar, almost haunting. I took a deep breath, the lump in my throat growing heavier. "Who's there?" I called again, my voice wavering. The only response I got was a low chuckle that sent shivers racing down my spine. "Helen," he drawled, stepping into a sliver of moonlight. A smug grin stretched across his face. It was Mark Thompson. "I didn't expect to find you here." "Why are you following me?" I demanded, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. But my heart was pounding. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through me, ready to fuel my fight or flight. "I'm not the one following you," he said, the smile never leaving his lips. "You're the curious one, getting yourself into places you shouldn't." "You know what happened to Margaret?" The words slipped out before I could think, anger rising as I dared to confront him. A flicker of something shadowed his eyes, but it disappeared as quickly as it came. Do I? Or do I just know how to keep my distance? His tone was mocking, yet in its insincerity, I sensed a deeper connection to my plight. "Stop playing games with me," I said, stepping closer, the lamp held firmly before me. "What does she mean to you? What did you do?" His mirth vanished, replaced by a look of cold calculation. "It's not about what I did, Helen. It's about what I choose to protect." Suddenly, from the darkness beyond the trees, a figure burst forth. I barely had time to react before the next moment unfolded. Shouts, confusion, and then a flurry of movement as two more shadows leapt into view. "Mark, we need to go!" one of them exclaimed, urgency spilling into the air. My heart raced, confusion clouding judgment as I tried to make sense of it all. Who were these people? Were they accomplices? Amidst the chaos, Mark turned to me, his eyes glinting with something dangerously close to regret. "Remember, Helen, there are things you can't unsee. I'll always be watching." And just like that, they were gone, dissolving into the darkness like whispers on the wind. I stood on the porch, the weight of his words suspended in the air. What had that meant? My breath came in short gasps, my heart pounding as I looked around, willing the shadows to bring clarity. Had I just brushed against the edges of something far more sinister? The night deepened around me, yet I felt the weight of so many unanswered questions pressing at my chest. I glanced toward the shattering glass, the broken remnants symbolizing how far down the rabbit hole I'd plunged. But what did it all mean? Had Margaret been trying to warn me? Or had I only discovered the tip of an iceberg that could sink my very existence? Deep down, I knew I couldn't stay. But as I made my way back inside, the truth began to crystallize. I had entered a world entangled with secrets, and while I thought I was seeking resolution, I realized I was only just beginning to surf the surface of deeper, darker waters. I moved through the house, each creak beneath my feet echoing the uncertainty gnawing at me. I finally slipped into my room, wanting to retreat from everything I'd faced. And yet, the hollow feeling in my chest churned. I might have escaped from Mark, for now, but something told me that the answers I sought would continue to elude me. Whatever had happened to Margaret, it wasn't over, and I wasn't going to be granted peace. I grabbed the silver locket, feeling its cold weight in the palm of my hand as I thought of her. I understood then. The more I discovered, the more I risked being swallowed by the very darkness I was trying to understand. And just like that, the questions loomed larger than before, as if the shadows themselves were ready to envelop me whole. I moved to the window. The town seemed so serene, but I couldn't shake the sensation that something was lurking just out of sight. Waiting. I might be back home for now, but I knew I wouldn't be safe for long. Anguish mixed with resolve. Even as the answers teased me just beyond reach, I couldn't walk away. My search for truth had begun, but with it came the unsettling understanding that every story has layers, some that should never be unearthed. With a heavy heart, I turned off the light and sat in darkness, knowing this plot was far from finished.